Hello and welcome back to Paranormal NL Podcast, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. That's PNL Podcast for short. I'm your host and founder, Jen Noseworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 FM on that Gulf. For tonight's Paranormal Energy Special on UPRN segment number 37, I've got three special guests tonight waiting backstage from Texas, North Carolina, and the UK, who I'll bring on shortly. Now it's time to grab your favorite cold one, a few munchies, and get ready for the spooky show tonight. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the Bog Team. It's a boots-on-the-ground Bog Team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. Follow PNL Podcast and the Bog Team on their Linktree, Paranormal NL Podcast. Now let's get on with the show. Tonight I have on with me, I've got Kelly and Enoch and
Hi.
Michael. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Michael,
Hello.
you want to introduce yourself first? Michael, you know what? I should say welcome back because you were on UPRN segment number 20 this year. And in season 2, last year in 24, you were on episode 53. And in season 3, you were on episode 13. So welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back. And actually, since I've already been on, why don't I turn it over to Kell and E to introduce themselves? Everybody knows me.
We're hoping they listen to your episodes. You want to go, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm Kell Ridley. I'm from the UK. I've been interested in the paranormal since I was a kid, basically. I've been a member of a paranormal team since 2012. I first started. I've just been interested in everything paranormal, whether it's ghosts, aliens. Had quite a lot of experiences myself. So I used to work at the Ancient Ramen as well. I used to do hosting for them. And basically I started the Paranormal Versus podcast with Michael, and then we brought E on board. And basically we do it all over the world, obviously, because of me being in the UK and these guys being in the USA. So we get people from even Japan, Ireland, all over, like listening to us. So it's quite an experience.
Yes, that's exciting. How about you, Enoch? You want to introduce yourself? I know you guys got E down there.
Oh yeah, everybody calls me E. I'm Enoch Smith. Been interested in the paranormal for the majority of my life due to unexplained experiences and stuff like that. Became overly interested in it in the past, probably maybe 10 years, and really started focusing on investigations and equipment and stuff like that in the last 5. I love history. I'm a big history guy. And there's a lot of it where I live out in coastal North Carolina area. I'm even a bladesmith by trade and musician, stuff like that. I like to try to keep it old school and do things like old school ways, because sometimes you just can't beat old school. But joined up with these guys, started doing shows and stuff with them, and I've been loving it ever since.
How did you all get together? How did you all meet and get together and just say, hey, let's do a show? What brought you to that?
We're all part of the same network where we're shows. I had decided that I used to be a part of an old show with my friend Stephen, and basically I left there and I decided I want to do another one. So I basically had mentioned it to Michael, and it just went from there. Me and Michael started it up first. I think we'd done the first season, just me and him. Then we brought in my ex-partner Matt, and then obviously when Matt left, we brought in E because he's one of my best friends. So that's the story so far.
That's the story, and you're sticking to it. Mike, do you want to give a shout out to yourself for the folks who didn't hear in the other episodes?
Sure. So I am Michael from Texas. I've been a paranormal investigator since 2018, even though I officially kind of grew up in the paranormal without knowing about the paranormal, but I am the host of The Energy That Surrounds Us and Riding Through the Unknown. And I like to give the credit to Kell for coming up with Paranormal Verses. And I view it more as her baby, but we both share the credit for it and help it to grow. So it's a collaboration between us. And I, I was grateful when E came on because it gives us freedom to do more episodes and to have more topics to cover and more guests coming in because Kel and I have a tendency to know the same people, and so we're like, oh, we're who do we want to bring on? It's like, well, who do we not have on?
Right? Especially if you had 3 different shows, that's a lot of balls to juggle.
It is, and it's a lot of fun. And Kel and I like to tease each other and bring our natural charismatic humor to the shows. And he comes in with his own, and he's been holding his own, so I'm impressed.
E, do you have any cool historical stuff that kind of happened to y'all while you were looking into something, or anything that sticks out in your mind that you can think of?
Well, I have a lot of personal experiences that kind of cause my mind to wander back to pretty frequently. There's this one occasion with my son when he was young. I was watching him, and he was having a snack, kind of jumping around the room while he was eating some chips. And he, I guess, found the height of the couch a little bit more challenging. So he started jumping off the couch while eating Doritos. And I was like, listen, you cannot be doing that. You will choke. And it wasn't a full probably second that it came out of my mouth that he jumped down and then just kind of froze. And when he did that, I was like, are you okay? And then you could tell he kind of started to panic, and he started full on choking.
Uh-oh.
I have a medical background, so I immediately started doing like the hind leg, the back slaps and stuff like that.
And all that good stuff.
Yeah, nothing wanted to seem to work. It was pretty lodged in there. He eventually started to turn blue and pass out and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. So I rushed back to my medical bag, and I grabbed a pair of hemostats where I kind of laid him down, reached in there, was able to actually find it and pull it out. And within like a second or two, he came to gasping for air. After like the shock wore off of him, and he was starting to become a little bit more oriented, the only thing he could ask about was his ball. I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, he doesn't have a new ball. And he was like describing the ball and stuff like that. I was like, you don't have a ball like that. He's like, listen, she has my ball. I want it back. And I was like, okay, buddy, whatever, just to pass it by the moment.
Right?
I'm sorry.
I said, what a scene. It's even worse when it was one of your own that something like that happens too.
Oh, I know. It's so different when it's one of your own.
So he's looking for this ball that you don't know what he's talking about. You're probably just thinking, okay, he had some, an episodic low O2 sat. Maybe it's something like that, right? So
yeah, I thought it was just something that he like dreamt about, because sometimes that can happen when you go unconscious. Things seem so real because you don't even realize you slip in and out of that consciousness.
Yeah.
But kids say the darndest things anyway. So I didn't pay too much mind on it, given the situation that just happened. So a couple of days had passed, and I was playing with this new laptop that I got, and I was throwing up all the pictures and stuff and letting it do like a screensaver thing on our television in the living room. And I guess he was in there when the picture of my grandmother was on there popped up, and he's like, hey, that's her. She has my ball. And I was like, what are you talking about, buddy? Like, she had passed away years before. He said, I'm telling you, she has my ball, and she told me to tell your mom hello, and she called her by this particular name. And he used the name that she used for her, like it was her pet name for her. So that kind of blew my mind, because they had never met. He recognized her. He described this, and then knew my mom's nickname for her, which she had never heard. So
I bet
that blew my mind.
It freaked you out, right? You're like, wait a minute.
I was like, maybe there's a little something to this. Maybe she was there kind of comforting him during that, traumatic situation.
Yeah, could be. Maybe she's his spirit guide or something.
Yeah,
what do you think?
But that is definitely something that stands out.
What do you think about that, Kel?
Yeah, like I say, I've heard of loads of like traumatic experiences and people saying like loved ones or like the spirit guides and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely believe that 100%.
Like in your house, E, did you do any sort of like investigation or anything like that? Maybe with some dowsing rods or I don't know, spirit box?
No, not at the time. I didn't really have any equipment at that time. I just kind of was going on blind faith, and just another one of those situations that just happened to me that I couldn't explain. It wasn't until about 5 or so years later that I actually started obtaining equipment, because I was just like, you know what, enough's enough. I need to try to find some more answers rather than just throwing it into that box that was
Right.
starting to get full. So I wanted to start looking into it a little further, and stuff has been pretty interesting with the equipment and stuff. So
Okay, love it. How about you, Cal? Have you had any experiences that you really like can explain, or any that you want to share that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, but the only problem is your show's only an hour long. I've had quite a few. I'll tell you about one of the most recent ones that I've had. As I said, I used to be a host. I used to host investigations down at the Ancient Ram. Basically,
Ooh, that's a hot spot, right? The Ancient Ram.
yeah,
Hasn't that
yeah.
been on a lot of shows and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's well known, and especially in the paranormal community. So me and my ex-partner, basically, we done the investigations there for the owner, and we had loads of guests in. And what would happen is, after the guests go home, me and Matt used to just stay there.
Right.
So I would never sleep upstairs. That's one of the things I'm like, I am not sleeping in them beds after what, like, things that used to come over the spirit box and stuff like that. I'm like, nope, not a hope in hell. So basically, so we get to stay there, and the next day we're investigating ourselves with some of the equipment that we brought. And one of the things we had to do was make the place nice and tidy for the next team coming in. And there was a well-known team from America, actually, that were coming in that following morning. So straightened up all the beds, made sure that the place was absolutely spotless. Then we'll put all our equipment, apart from a few bits and pieces, into the car. Then came back upstairs. So we were in the witch's room, and basically the K2 meter was going absolutely ballistic. So Matt turned around to me and went, "Why don't you not like walk away, because it might be your phone that's activating it," even though I knew it wasn't, because it was too much of a far distance. And so as I turned around, walked away, the bed that I had just made had a child's handprint, tiny little handprint embedded into the bed right next to the teddy bear. So I was actually filming it at the time, and so basically I put my hand next to it to prove that it definitely wasn't my hand. So there was definitely a child that had been in that room and put its hand on the bed. So that's, like I say, it's just one of the many experiences that I've had.
Do you ever like feel them while they're in the room or anything? Do you have any kind of clairs that you know of?
I used to have quite a few of them. Basically, I had a spinal injury back in 2016. And just before I had the injury, I knew there was something next to us. So I took a selfie. And in that selfie is this big purple, it looks like an alien head shape. And I just knew it was somebody was there. And basically I sent it to a medium friend. And she says, it's a member of your family. They're coming around you close because there's going to be something happening to you soon. And basically I think it was 2 or 3 days later, I had the spinal injury. And as soon as I had that spinal injury, every clair that I had just completely disappeared. And I've been recovering since. I was in a wheelchair for 2 years, and
oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I never had none of that. So I spoke to a friend again, my medium friend. She was like, "Yeah, they came to like take that away from you until you recover properly. You'll not have it back." So I'm just starting to get little bits and pieces back now. It's like I'll get a knot in my stomach if something's about to happen, but I know exactly what it is that's about to happen, type of thing.
Okay.
So it's just starting to come back now, but like I say, it used to be very, very strong when I was younger. I used to go up to people, even from being a child. I used to walk up to people and tell them things there's no possible way that I could have known.
What kind of stuff would you tell them? Is it stuff that you knew about them, or stuff that you knew would happen?
No, it was just basically saying there's a woman following you around, and she's your gran, and she's called this, or she's got this, she's wearing this, or she's, you know, like, and it would be something familiar to them every time. And my my dad used to freak out. He didn't want nothing to do with it, but my mum used to know all about it, and like my mum was well into it.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you kind of grew up with it. If your mom was
Yeah.
into it, that was going to be my next question. Does anybody else in your family have that kind of ability?
Well, my dad's mum, basically, she used to basically, let's just say, be into that sort of thing. But I actually died when I was 6 years old. I had an operation on my kidneys and I flatlined. And apparently my mum says it's been since then when I started seeing things to people that I couldn't possibly know.
You know, a lot of people say that. What do you think about that, Michael? That if you have an experience like that, like a near-death experience, it really does something and opens up something.
Yeah, I kind of have the viewpoint that our bodies are kind of like these high-tech computer type bodies where our mind is like a computer, a hard drive, everything, you could relate almost to computer. And I view with my experiences with it is the body is kind of doing a reboot. So when you have a near-death experience, your spirit and everything is rebooting, bringing in the new information, updating, so to speak. So then when you come to and start doing everything, it slowly starts activating so you don't get overwhelmed. And next thing you know, you're able to hear things that you normally didn't hear. You're able to see things differently, understand things in a new way. And so I give high credibility that, if you've had a near-death experience, that it does alter us and it does activate things within us. And I feel like there's some of that maybe like self-proclaimed prophecy, so to speak, kind of things where it's a predestined thing that, like a contract that was made. This is going to happen at this time, activate this. And some people don't have that. So I can't say to activate your gifts, you have to have a near-death experience, because I know people who have activated without it.
Do you think maybe it's because you've been in their dimension, shall we say, or their realm, and they kind of know it? Because you know how they say when you're looking at the paranormal, it looks back at you. So do you think it looks back even more once you've been in their realm?
I think every one of us is born with a light, so to speak, and the more we engage that light and build it up and use it, and by the light I mean like gifts like, mediums or people who are healers or people who can hear the other side and see the other side. Every one of them, I feel like their light burns maybe just a wee bit brighter or a lot brighter than everyone else that's around. And so that draws spirits to it.
And I think it's got a lot to do with the frequencies and stuff like that. What do you guys think? Because, like in order to reach that realm, shall we say, a lot of people use meditation, but other things like sound, like the sound bowls. And what do you think, E?
I mean, I think that it possibly could be achieved in multiple different ways. And like Kell's case, when you actually flatline and you cross that plane, like if anybody teeters that plane at some point, like you're kind of opening the doors. Like my grandmother used to say when we were little, whenever that door is open, great things can come out, but sometimes the flies get in too.
That is so true. You don't know what's coming in, right?
Yeah, it's like you can't always trust it, stuff like that. So it can be achieved multiple ways. The only thing I would always hope for would that it would be a positive way.
Right. Yeah, because you don't know what's going to step in through the door. Could be a big nasty mosquito looking for some lunch. We got a lot of those here. So have you ever had any like negative experiences?
Me?
Neither one of y'all that you want to talk about? Or Or have they all been kind of positive?
I would say neutral and positive. Maybe a couple shifty type experiences, ones that we couldn't really put our finger on.
Yeah.
Me personally, things are a little weird when they respond a certain way or with a certain voice or something like that. I would say can be automatically taken as negative. If anything is ever perceived that way, then we usually terminate the session and do what we got to do to close everything out and rid ourselves of any type of energy or presence or anything like that.
That's what we do with the tricksters and stuff like that. If you had
mimics, tricksters, just things pretending not to be what they are. Like if it's untrusted,
I'm just a child or something. But then it comes through completely intelligent, and you're thinking, this ain't no child. Yeah. Have you had any weird experiences like that, Kell?
Going back to the ancient ram again, we used to have like things like there was one of the guests, basically there's meant to be a 7 foot tall black entity in there, which we actually have got a photo of. And he's meant to go for the younger girls for some reason. So there was this girl that was excited to go into the barn all night, and she's like calling him out and shouting at him and saying, I'm not scared of you and everything else like that. And then we're doing like trying to bird table tipping. Basically the next thing, this girl just hits the floor. We picks her up and she just was shaking, and she was going on about this big entity. We don't know if she's seen it or felt it or it touched her. She just was absolutely completely freaked out, and she could barely walk. She was that frightened. So we took her outside to give her some fresh air, and she refused to come back in. She said, no, that thing's evil. And she just went home. Her and her partner went home. They were just absolutely terrified.
Sometimes you just know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the scary when stuff like that happens, 100%. How about you, Michael?
I don't know that I've come across anything I would say that's dark, but I have come across a couple of spirits like E was saying, where they come in and they're like, oh, I'm this child. I just want to play and I just want to do this or that. And then as you progress, you're like, yeah, you're knowing stuff a child shouldn't know, and you're using language that a child wouldn't use, and I'm starting to really think you're not a child anymore. And then they get upset that you figure it out, and it's like, yeah, it's...
That happened to us the other day in the car. Like we were driving around. Sometimes we just do some like rando investigations. We bring our equipment with us. Oh my gosh, we had that happen to the T, Michael. Like it was saying like some really intelligent stuff that it shouldn't know. And then we were like, oh yeah, we called it out, and then it got pissed off at us, and then we just drove away and left it there.
Yeah. That's the important thing is you got to leave everything where you left it. Don't take home anything. And that's one of the big reasons why I think it's important that people don't take things from sites.
Yes.
Because you don't know what's a trigger object, what's a vessel object, and what's just an object there. Like you could pick up a rock.
Or it could be something that somebody did some kind of weird spiritual or, some kind of a spell and just left it there for you to pick up intentionally.
Right. Like you could pick up a rock that's on the ground and be like, oh, I got this rock from, say, Amityville. And you're like, it's just a rock. But you don't know if the spirit that's there has interacted with that rock and left its mark on that rock, or somebody else came, like you're saying, and did something and it was on that spot, so that rock is charged now with that energy.
Right. Yeah, or it could be an elemental or something from the land. Have y'all ever dealt with any of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
I personally have not. Like not an elemental.
No.
We've had some like stuff show up and say it's shapeshifters and all kinds of weirdness. Like, yeah, you just don't know what you're dealing with. I've been here 1,000 years and all kinds of weirdness.
Never experienced that.
I have actually seen a shapeshifter before. I was in the car with my daughter once. It was after midnight. I had picked her up from work when we used to live in the countryside. And this is going to sound like crazy because everybody I tell this story to, you can see on their faces that they think that we're crazy. But we're driving home along one of the old country roads, which is like a single lane track. And all of a sudden, a deer jumped out in front of the car, and it was only a few foot in front of the car, and it couldn't go left or right because of the hedgerow. So it's running in front of the car. And the next thing I know, my daughter turns to me and goes, "Mum, what's going on? Why is that deer shrinking?" Basically, we were watching it, and it was shrinking in front of our eyes, and we both started freaking out a little bit, saying, "What the hell's happening?" By the time we got to the end of the road, and it went to turn in because there was a gate, it was actually a rabbit. Which I know that sounds completely crazy. If my daughter hadn't been there with us, I would have thought I had like some sort of episode. But we're both seen it, and it's we cannot explain it. It was definitely a rabbit by the time it had turned into this gateway, and there's no way we've looked. The only thing we can come close to figuring out is if it was some sort of shapeshifter or a jackalope or something like that. It sounds crazy.
What do you have around your area? I know that we've got like Wendigo and different things like that. Or, of course, I know you've got fairies and whatnot in the UK, but do you think it could be something like that around?
One of my friends who is a demonologist from London, basically, he looked into it and he said that in Northern Europe there is jackalopes. Or shapeshifters and stuff like that. So that's what we think it could have possibly been. But around England, we've got so many. We do have supposedly not yet these what they're called Sasquatch type creatures in some of our like little woods and lakes areas. We do have something called the black shuck, which is a gigantic dog with red eyes, and apparently it goes around the country lanes, and if you see it, it's an omen of death.
It sounds like Dogman kind of thing.
Yeah, we have supposedly giant black cats. I've never seen one of them though.
That's a lure here too in Newfoundland. Big cat sightings. Yeah, that's a popular cryptid sighting.
Yeah, we also have apparently the black-eyed children as well. So
black-eyed children. Now that's a new one for me.
Apparently they're down in, the place where my daughter used to work, apparently they had one there. And then there's a place called Cannock Chase further down next to the Birmingham area. Yeah. Apparently they've got them there.
Ooh. So what's the deal with that? They just show up and they just, stare at you, or what do they do?
I don't know. As far as I'm aware, they're just ghost children that've got black eyes. I'm not sure if they've got like any like superstition behind them, whether it's an omen of death or anything. I haven't really looked into them that well.
Have you heard any history with that, E?
With the children with black eyes, no. Outside of like movies and stuff like that, no. I've never heard of anything like that around here. We have like a lot of Native American lore here in North Carolina with the Wendigos and all kinds of other things with the North Carolina mountains, the Boo Hag, the Boojums and
what's the Boo Hag? Is that like in Newfoundland and Labrador we got the thing called a hag where it kind of sits on you when you're sleeping? Is that what the Boo Hag is, or?
So from what I understand, it's a witch that the story can differ from region to region, but from what I understand, it's a witch that always tries to coach you outside or try to get into your home, but can only come in if she's invited. So she tries to entice you.
Like a vampire.
Something like that. But there's in the South, we have preventative maintenance. Like we use like cinnamon brooms and stuff like that. So before she can even enter, she has to count every single bristle of the broom. And that usually keeps her busy until, the break of dawn. So, and then she can't get you in daylight hours and stuff like that. Sometimes they'll throw rice out or salt because she has to count each grain, which again keeps her busy. But other than that, it's the things in the dark that you don't want to hear and deal with. So like if you hear a whistle in the woods, do not even acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's always a bad one.
Yeah, or if you hear like your name called, even if it sounds like yourself, or if you see yourself, do not even acknowledge it. Just turn and walk away like you didn't see anything.
Doppelgangers, yeah.
Yes, the stuff like that gets really trippy, especially in the deep mountains. Like they have a really hardcore, belief system where that's concerned.
Okay. So
Here at
you
the
got
ocean
a lot
part is
of
also
folklore over there.
Oh
What were you
yeah,
thinking about the
there's a lot of
ocean
history
part?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live along coastal North Carolina, so we have like the pirate history, we have the Lost Colony history here in North Carolina, so much. Then we got the Native American history here as well. There's one thing that people will say they've seen is the gray man. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one,
The
but
gray
it's
man.
typically just
Tell
a
us about
guy.
him.
Yeah, it's basically just a guy that has like a gray appearance. There's no features on him at all. It's just like a gray silhouette from what people
Okay.
would describe. And
So
he
kind of like
usually,
Hat Man, but he's all gray instead of black. Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
only time people ever really see him is right before a big catastrophe, so a big hurricane or
Oh,
something like that. So he's usually like a big omen that something's coming.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
but people hear that. I'm hoping while she's visiting, she'll get to hear the Seneca booms, which are scientifically unexplained.
What's that? The Seneca
So
boom?
it's like a giant, loud. It sounds like cannon fire. And we live between two big military bases in North Carolina. We have a Marine base here close to us, and then we have an Army base more in the center of the state. Certain artillery strikes and training grounds and stuff will put off some really loud booms, with them, firing
Okay.
off those weapons. But they'll check with the military sites and say, no, we haven't, fired anything off today. It's not a training day. We didn't do any guns that would be, resident over that, distance. But they apparently happen all over the East Coast. And
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
quite a
people,
popular thing that happens all around the world.
yeah,
It's like a residual, and you can hear it, right?
yeah, that's what
Um,
people think in North Carolina, that it's residual, and they think it's from either the pirate days or from the Revolutionary War, Civil
yep.
War, all that actual cannon fire, because it's really big over the beach. I don't know if it's just because it's a big, like, flat, area, or if it's just something that's localized.
Have you ever
Nobody.
tried the parabolic mic or something at night with that?
There are YouTube videos of it being captured. I have not ever
Yeah.
captured anything, but I have heard them, and it sounds like somebody next door to you is firing off a cannon. Like, it is insane. You can feel it. Like,
Uh,
your body physically feels it. Like you're at a concert. You feel that bass, that drum hit you. Like, you
yeah.
feel that boom.
It's like they're replaying what happened. Interesting. What do you think, Michael?
Oh, I'm fascinated by the sounds that the planet gives off, and I've been to a couple locations where I would hear, like, it sounded like a cannon fire, and they're like, there is military bases nearby, but I would always hear one boom, and it's like, I'm no expert on military tactics, but I don't ever think that there's somebody out there and they fire one cannon, like, okay, we're done, everything's good, let's move on. I'm like, so to me, that ranks up as being part of the paranormal, because, yeah, I mean, it's unexplained and there's no rhyme or reason. It's like, everything that's been going on, you can't explain it, and that's where I think Cal and E and I enjoy the shows we do, is because we look at anything that's unexplainable, we want to talk about it. We want to hear more about it and explore it, than limit ourselves to just, we're going to focus on ghost hunting or paranormal equipment. It's like, oh no, we want to branch into all of it. And sometimes we go in a little bit too far and kind of are like, oh, what did we just get ourselves into? And
What are
other
we doing?
times we're like, that was actually really interesting, and it leaves us with new thoughts about stuff.
Do you ever have any UFO experiences?
I have, I don't know about Kell and E.
Michael, you do know about mine.
I didn't want to speak for you.
Yeah. I basically, when I was before I was born, it was the night I was conceived. Actually, my mum and dad was going to a pub, and on the way to the pub, they seen a cigar-shaped UFO in the sky.
No.
They went down to the pub, and it was witnessed by about 37 other people who came out of the pub to see it. They went in, had a drink that night. They seen it again on the way home. Basically, this is just a weird part of the story. They decided to stop off at the local park, and they had missing time. And when they got back home, it was like a few hours later. They think that they might have fell asleep. They're not sure, but ever since then, obviously, I was conceived that night. My mum and dad and my brothers used to call us an alien. Said that I came with the UFO. So I don't know if it was like a coincidence or what, but like virtually my whole life, my brothers called us an alien. Another funny fact is I look nothing like any of my family. All my family are really dark eyed, dark hair. I was born with blonde hair, blue eyes. Both my children were born with piercing blue eyes and white hair. And there's not one person in our whole entire family, not even we've checked them great grandparents and everything, and nobody's got blonde hair, blue eyes in my whole entire family. So I was one off.
It kind of reminds me of that movie with Christopher Reeves, The Village of the Damned.
Yeah.
So all those kids were born at the same time with like the piercing blonde hair.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, right?
Yeah. Another thing is I was taller than everybody in my family. My mum and dad were only just 5'2", 5'3", and basically when I was 13 years old, I was 6 foot tall.
Oh wow!
So I was really tall as well. My brothers, I was taller than my two big brothers as well. So.
A lot of people say that they're cigar shaped, the ones that they've seen. Mm-hmm. Have you heard many people talk about that?
I've heard a lot of people explain them to be that shape as well. So. I have looked into a lot of UFOs and stuff like that. So there's quite a lot of them are that shape as well as a disc shape as well.
Yep, you never know. There's Michael here looking like Zeus or somebody.
Oh, wow.
That was AI.
That's you in another life there, Michael.
Yeah, a friend introduced me to AI, so I was like, messing with AI, and I was like, actually, that's pretty cool looking photo. So
it is. It's fun. Do y'all have any other things that you want to talk about? Any other experiences? Or I know you were talking about some of the Native American history of your area. Is there any other folklore tales about that you want to share?
The ones I really know about are the ones that are widely spoken about, right? Like the shapeshifters, the Wendigo, stuff like that. I have no personal experiences with them at all that I know of. It's just a basic lore. I know that they're very cautious.
What about that place, that the village when they disappeared?
The Lost Colony?
Yeah, that's around here somewhere, isn't it?
So, well, yeah, I guess that did have something to do with the original natives of the area. So, I mean, are you familiar with the Lost Colony story?
No, you want to share that one?
Okay. It's been so long, if I can remember it all. I know that when England was trying to come over and settle the area, they landed on we have some islands on the outskirts of North Carolina called the Outer Banks.
Okay.
It's a huge tourism spot, big pirate spot. Native Americans lived out there for a good while. So I guess that a lot of the English had to go back home to resupply and get more people because they were trying to colonize, the New World. They were gone for a long time, months and months and months. And when they got back, all the people they left behind were completely vanished, vanished. No trace of them, nothing. And the only thing they could find was the word Croatoan written on the tree. They're thinking that it has something to do with the Indian tribe that was in the area because there wasn't even any Indians at all, when they came back there either, like there were before they left. They don't know if they packed up and moved. They have no idea if it was sickness. There's no explanation to it whatsoever. It's just one of those things that is just lost in history. At this point, it's all speculation with what evidence they do have. But it's considered a huge, investigative type topic around these parts.
Did we ever figure out what the word Croatoan means?
If they have, I have not been made aware of it. From the last of my knowledge on the whole subject, they still are unsure what it is. I personally think maybe it was an Indian word or even the name of the Indians themselves. Like, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if that's what they called themselves or what, but I don't think that they have a definite meaning of the word.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. You never know what you're dealing with, right? Especially when you're on different lands. Some people think, oh, it's the house, it's whatever's in the house. But what if that house is new and it's the land? Because we keep getting stuff across our spirit box in a lot of places saying the land is cursed.
I have
Which
had
is
experience.
interesting, right? I wonder, is it the people who actually lived here, the indigenous, did they curse the land because we came here? What do you think, Michael?
I don't know that they cursed the land because we came here. I think all the stuff that happened kind of, if you want to look at it as the land is cursed, I would say, well, the tribes, when it was tribal land, they lived with respect to each other. And yes, there was conflict, but their conflict style was a lot different from ours. Where when the white man, so to speak, came, or the Europeans came, all of a sudden there was diseases they'd never heard of or experienced. There was technology they had never seen, and so all the stuff that we were bringing, what is considered old world to a new world, and it wasn't really a new world. It was just a new world to us. But all that we were bringing, we brought all of our, religion, our philosophies, our thoughts, all of that left a print on the land. And so you have the natives who live with the land, who respected the land, were, fed from the land. And then we come and we say, we're taking this land from you and we can't grow anything. It's like, well, how can the Indians or the natives be growing, but we can't? And it's like, could the land have been angry with the settlers? And that was the start of the curse, was the fact that we were starving. We couldn't sustain the land like they could. Well, why would that be? Because we didn't treat the land with respect. We didn't ask the land to be there. So,
Yeah, if that goes back, hundreds of, even maybe thousands of years.
right.
So
And
maybe there's
so,
still that energy there, right?
right. And I don't think that the natives would have cursed the land because that's not their nature. I think the land itself cursed and said, if you're going to mistreat me, I'm going to mistreat you. And I can make your life really hard because you need me. I don't need you.
Yeah, it's kind of like
And
all the stuff that's going on lately with us. We've got all the hurricanes and the fires and all that. And we've caused all that, right?
right.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a reckoning that we attributed to the natives because we were subjugating them, and that's what we would do if somebody was subjugating us. We would put a curse or be angry about something, but not the natives. The
Yeah.
natives would be like, well, you're doing this, so okay, you do that. We're going to go over here. We'll be us. And they're fine.
Yeah. How about cryptid creatures? E, do you have any in your area? I know that Kell talked about some cryptic creatures over in her area.
So we have like the lore of certain things. Like I said, the gray man. We have something called the boojum.
Never heard of the boojum. What's that?
So it's a mountain dwelling, like ape-like creature. I would say very similar to the Bigfoot lore.
Okay.
Or like the skunk ape or something like that. It's something
Yeah.
like that. People will say they cite it. There are not exactly sure what they're called. It just left my mind. But we have random lights that just appear in the mountainside. So like a lot of people that live on the side of mountains that have a really good view of the other mountains, random lights would just appear, and you can see them for
Now,
miles.
do they go with the Boojum? Because you know how a lot of people say with the Bigfoot, there's often orbs associated with him.
I've never heard of them linked, but that would be interesting because I have heard the Bigfoot, the orbs and other weird things happening around his sightings and stuff too.
Yeah.
Of course, you got the UFO sightings in the mountains and stuff like that, which again, I've never had any type of experiences with personally. I grew up on an airport. My family bought a bunch of land and built an airport on it. My dad was a mechanic pilot, and my grandfather was a pilot as well. And we just made like a family business out of it.
Nice.
It was amazing. So we got really, really, as kids, familiar with the lights of aircraft. We could almost call out what type of aircraft it was in pitch black dark just by seeing the type of lights that it had. Very few times did we ever come across an aircraft that we couldn't identify. There was one night that looked extremely circular, like across the the front part, and it was extremely quiet, and we just kind of chalked it up being military. But makes you wonder with everything coming out in the news nowadays if it was something like that. But
yeah, with all the drones and orbs and stuff, you never know.
Back when we were kids, we didn't have drones like that, not the public anyway.
Right.
And this thing was like the size of like maybe a passenger aircraft, like a big commercial grade passenger aircraft. It was huge. And it was so quiet.
Quiet. Hey, okay.
So we didn't understand what that was. But as far as other cryptids, we have, I guess, the basic ones. Ghost ships are being sighted from time to time on the shore.
I was going to ask you about the pirates. You said you got a big pirate history there. We have huge pirate history here in Newfoundland also. What kind of pirate lore and history do you have over there when it comes to spooky stuff?
A lot of the lore that you have, we share. It's just different areas of the travel. So whenever they would come up from the Caribbean, they would make those runs all the way up to the East Coast. So my
family would call it the Golden Triangle. They used to come and get rum and sugar and trade the rum for spice.
Yeah. So like where a lot of the stuff that you guys received in trade came from our neck of the woods too, from the one of the trade stops on the way. Because I was actually born in Savannah, Georgia, and that was a big pirate hookup too.
Yeah.
So they would stop there all the time before they came over to there was like 3 stops in North Carolina they would make really big for trading. I know during battles they actually would come through an area called Topsail, and it's actually spelled top sail.
We've got a road, Topsail Road.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why they called it Topsail is because the pirates like to use this area of the coastline to sneak up because there was trees really close to the coastline. So the only time you would ever know if a pirate was coming is if you were elevated. And back then you didn't really have that much of an elevation with houses and buildings and stuff like that. You would only be able to see the tops of their sails coming over the tops of the tree line. So that's why they named the town Topsail. But you say Topsail if you're a local, but it's actually spelled Topsail.
Right. Yeah.
But,
it's funny listening to the what do you call that thing on Google trying to tell you around town? They're speaking different names. But did you ever have any locals talk about seeing any of the ghost ships or anything out there at night? Or?
Oh yeah, there was something in the news earlier this week that somebody was reporting seeing a ghost ship off the coast of the north side of our beach.
Ooh.
And other people say they saw it at the same time.
Oh wow.
So it just randomly happens. It's usually when the red sky is like sunsetting, that really beautiful time period. You don't really see the sunset too much over here on the East Coast unless we have the little peninsula areas where you can actually see the water on the other side too.
Yeah,
but
myself and Michael are fans of the tall ships. You've got a logo there, and I guess if I move stuff around, you can see my logo with it in the background. But got a tall ship on mine there somewhere.
Oh yeah, love the old ships.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Cal, what about you? Do you have any kind of pirate stuff up around the UK, or is it more just military?
We do have a lot of smugglers like old caves and stuff like that from smugglers and stuff like that, not necessarily pirates. Not that I'm aware of pirates, but like I say, smugglers. We do actually have a haunted hotel that used to be a smuggler's place. It's trying to remember the name of it. It's in a place called Almouth. It's been on some TV shows and stuff like that. I just can't remember its name off the top of my head. But that's where they used to, like, obviously store some of the stuff. And that's meant to be really haunted. So,
okay. You think that they're trying to
location as well? It's absolutely amazing, the place.
Maybe they got some of their gold or something, or treasures there that they're looking over.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any other things that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about that you can think of that stands out in your mind for when you were doing your shows, Paranormal Versus, any particular episode, or the energy that surrounds us, or riding through the unknown?
We've had quite a few interesting shows. There was a man that Michael might remember the name on, I think it was last season. He was basically talking about how in the mountains where he's got a store, that basically people come down and tell them about the experiences that they have and write it in the book. Like seeing creatures that are different to normal creatures. And apparently there's a military base or something up there where they experiment on animals, genetically modify them.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no, what a scene.
Yeah, I thought you would remember that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
That was a really interesting show. Really interesting.
Where was this at? Where was the mountain? Or
Michael, can you remember?
It's in the Oregon, Washington area. It's the Columbia River Gorge.
okay.
And they have articles where the government admitted to the Department of Energy, said, yes, we were working on creating super animals to protect our facilities near here that are nuclear, for the nuclear weaponry for the military.
Maybe that's where Bigfoot came from.
Possibly.
And it's possible. I mean, they admitted to making super crocodiles, super big, large cats, and making the all kinds of animals that normally you wouldn't consider being really good assets, that they were.
Yeah, we can grow all kinds of stuff
Manipulating
now,
them.
can't we? Grow all kinds of different sheep and all kinds of stuff under, they got all kinds on the go.
Yeah. Another one that I'm sure Kell remembers was talking about, like, UFO experiences. We had a guest on that. He had like drawings where they drafted the triangular craft, and he's was witness to it and was sharing his experience of seeing it and designed a model of it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was amazing.
Wow.
There was another one that was really interesting. I'm just trying to remember the name of the person. I still can't remember his name. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I've still got jet lag.
Yes, you must be after flying from the UK all the way over. You're in North Carolina now, right? How many hours is that flight? 8 hours?
Oh, well, I had to go from Newcastle, from where I'm from, to Paris first.
Okay.
So that was about 2 hours, and then obviously about 8 hours over from Paris. So it's quite a bit of a time difference, but I've been here 2 weeks, so I should be used to it by now, but I'm still half asleep. But the guy I was talking about, he basically had a near-death experience, and basically everything he described in his story, I didn't have the same thing happen, but it just like felt as though it was very familiar to me. So I don't know, I can't remember from when I had the flatlining experience whether I basically seen anything, because I was too young, I can't remember it. But when he was telling me with the story, it was just so familiar. It was unreal. And yeah, I I really enjoyed having him on the show. He was an amazing guy.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
I had him as a guest too. I think it's John something.
Yeah, it's John. I can't remember his surname, honestly. I'm still half asleep.
I want to say Davis or Davies, something like that.
John J. Davies, I think he was
That's
called.
it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, brilliant. You got a spot on, Michael.
Interesting. So you had a lot of different things on your shows, a lot of different episodes that kind of stick in your mind.
Yeah.
The one that cracked me up and I thought was the funniest because I actually had to do translation for Kell was, remember we had Travis Walton's friend on?
Yeah.
From Skinwalker Ranch?
No, from Fire in the Sky. Him. Yes,
okay.
He was a part of it, and he was telling his story, and he shared. And one of the funniest moments was I asked him. I said, "So, how much of the movie, is accurate of your experience?" And he goes, "Pretty much none of it." And we were like, "What?" He goes, God. "Yeah, they really, went off the rails with that one."
That's not good.
Oh my God. The best thing is I had to get Michael to translate because he couldn't understand my accent at all.
Well, I'm really used to it because we're very Irish over here, and we get a lot of people from all over the world, from all kinds of walks of life, coming off of our cruise ships that we get here now. So yeah, but we're very mostly Irish, so we can understand all kinds of crazy accents.
That's good.
So do y'all want to give a shout out to your fans and where people can find you? Do you want to start first, Michael, or?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to our fans and just say, hey, everyone, hope you enjoyed this interview, getting to know us, as well as being, watching the shows. And you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook. And it's Paranormal Versus. And I want to take a brief second and just say thank you to E for joining us. And I mean, he started as a guest and then became a host. So it was like a really quick jump for him. So thank you for agreeing to that and coming along on the ride with us. And I always like to give a shout out to Kell and say thank you for allowing me to be your co-host and be on this journey of Paranormal Versus with you.
Awesome.
No problem. That's been fun.
It has been fun.
Do you want to give a shout out to your fans?
Yeah, like I say, we have got like quite a loyal following. So yeah, it's they're absolutely amazing, and we couldn't do it without them. Like I say, like Michael, I was gonna like thank the guys for everything they've done. I think we're an absolutely amazing team. It's been a fun season.
It really has.
And Kell, don't you want to give a shout out to your super fan?
What one?
Starts
Theo.
with yeah.
Oh,
yeah, my super fan. Yeah, my grandson Theo often watches, and yeah, so I've always got to give him a little wave.
Oh, cute. And how about you, E? You got any fans you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, absolutely. We appreciate all the fans. I'm the new kid on the block, so not a lot of people know me yet. So having this show has been a lot of fun because we have guests all the time. So we usually spend our time talking about them and their experiences. So not a lot of people get to hear a lot about our personal experiences, but it's kind of like our origin story into the paranormal to where we are now.
Nice.
So
I love it.
This was a lot of fun. So I appreciate you having us on our show, and I appreciate these two for welcoming me with open arms and putting me in this position because it has been a blast. It has been a lot of fun.
Yes, I loved it. Well, thanks again, y'all, for being on the show. We really enjoyed it. I hope you have a great summer. Everybody tune in to Michael Kopf, Kell Ridley, and Enoch Smith, and you'll find them on the link tree there. You'll see it there on the bottom. For now, I'm going to leave you with some PNL Podcast Bog Team music. How about some metal music?